Many of the cars we know best are built by massive companies and sold everywhere. Toyota, Ford, and the General Motors family turn out and sell millions of cars, trucks, and SUVs every year. Smaller car companies, like Mazda or Subaru, are still producing millions of vehicles. Even Tesla just missed the million car mark in 2021. But there's a whole other world of car production where economies of scale, cost cutting, and even the usual regulations don't always apply. These expensive cars are built in very small numbers with the highest horsepower and most radical designs, and often the most bare-bones interiors. These are not cars for most people, usually, no more than 2 people at a time, in fact, who are usually in racing seats, strapped into full harnesses. McLaren Speedtail. Buyers of the latest supercar from McLaren won't take delivery of their new rarities until October 2022, but we already know how rare it will be. The company will build 106 examples of the McLaren Speedtail, exactly the same number as the famed McLaren F1 in the 1990s. This striking teardrop design is the most efficient body McLaren has produced, and it helps the car slip through the air to reach a top speed of 250 miles per hour. The 1070 horsepower engine also has a lot to do with that top speed, McLaren's highest ever for a production car. The interior puts the driver first, with a seat positioned in the center of the vehicle. Controls are in an overhead console rather than a center console, and rather than a rear-view mirror, there are camera screens on either side of the windshield. Shelby GT40. In 1966, Ford took on Ferrari at Le Mans, and won. The Shelby American team took first and second places in GT40s, and third place went to the Holman Moody GT40. To commemorate the 50th anniversary of beating a European racing powerhouse on its home turf, Shelby American built around 85 nearly exact replicas of the winning cars in the same livery worn by 3 of the team's cars in that race. Why nearly exact, you ask? Because cars built to race Le Mans in the mid-1960s are not up to modern safety and emissions standards, by a long shot. So these Shelby GT40 replicas are sold as rollers, which means the chassis was delivered to a dealership without an engine or transmission. They recommended a V8 from the Carroll Shelby Engine Company, naturally. Maserati MC12. In 2004 and 2005, Maserati wanted to return to GT racing, which requires homologation. That means that a company has to produce 25 examples of a street version, stradale, in Italian, of its race car and sell it. Maserati raced this car for 2 years, so we got a whole 50 examples of the MC12, the fastest car Maserati has ever made. The company claims a 0 to 124 miles per hour time in under 10 seconds and a top speed above 205 miles per hour from its 630 horsepower V8 engine. If you were one of the lucky few who pre-ordered a Maserati MC12, you could have had it for a relative song for well under $1 million. They don't come to auction very often, and when they do, the prices are around $2.5 million. De Tomaso Pantera Si. The De Tomaso Pantera debuted in 1970 and was available, in small numbers, for decades. By the late 1980s, sales were flagging, so a new designer was brought on to freshen the sharp, iconic design for the 1990 Pantera Si. To meet you. Regulations, a smaller engine making 244 horsepower was used. Much of the interior design was untouched, though the changes to the rest of the body created more room for taller drivers. But alas, all was for naught. Only 41 units of the Pantera Si were ever built, and 2 of those were used for crash testing. One was held for the De Tomaso Museum in Modena. That means 38 made it to the public before the Pantera was brought to an end. And they were never even exported to the States. Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR. You might be wondering how on earth this low-slung beast called the Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR could possibly be related to the Mercedes-Benz CLK of the late 1990s and early 2000s. They obviously have loads in common, such as the grille, headlights, and some instrumentation in the dashboard. Okay, that's really all. Mercedes was looking to re-enter the GT racing circuit in 1997 and needed a car. So it based its race-ready monster on the sporty CLK. And as with the Maserati MC12 mentioned earlier, it needed to be homologated. So 25 street-legal, Strassen version in German, race cars were produced. At the time, it was one of the most expensive production cars ever made, with a $1.5 million price tag. They don't come up for sale very often, but when they do, figures approaching $5 million are not unheard of. If you enjoyed this video, kindly press the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on, so that you don't miss out on videos like this. Thank you for watching.